Welcome. I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we dive into another business-related topic and explore a subject with the objective of providing you with some inspiration to take away something that you can apply in some small way to your business today. So with that in mind, I invite you to pause the video right now and grab a notepad and a pen so that you can go into this with the goal of leaving with one note, one actionable item that you can implement in your business today. Today, what I want to talk about is the three main reasons that businesses fail. Now, I don't like to harp on the negative, and generally speaking, I would advise you to focus and be a bit of an optimist at all times, at least a realistic optimist. However, I think there is some benefit in taking a look at the opposite side of things, insofar as it may provide you with some insights as to how to avoid the perils that so many businesses face when they fail. So let's dive right in and take a look at it. What are the main reasons that businesses fail? So the first reason is the lack of a clear, concise business plan. You have to have a well-formulated, well-thought-out business plan. You have to document that. It can't just be in your head, of course. And this is sort of the thing that intimidates a lot of people when they're getting into business, is the thought of writing a business plan, this huge document. You have to begin with the end in mind, and you have to start to formulate your ideas in an outline of some sort, understanding why it is that you're doing this. And we've already said that the failure to do this is likely to result in the failure of your business, or it's one of the top three reasons anyway. But there are different reasons that people put together a business plan, or another way to look at it is there are different functions of a business plan. What I want you to focus on is the business plan being a guide for you and your business strategy, okay? Many people look at a business plan as putting something together to be read by others who may be considering investing in the business or lending money to the business. And of course, that is a function that a business plan can serve to communicate the main aspects and the prospective success of a business to potential investors. However, that's not what we're going to focus on. We want to write a business plan that is designed to help you navigate the road ahead. Okay, so this is a roadmap. This is a strategy. And there are lots of sources. I'll create a whole nother video on how to write a good business plan. Let's just cover some of the basics in the time we have today of what you're looking at. So the first thing, of course, when you start a business is you need to have a business idea. Ideally, you will have a unique product or service for which there's a demand in the marketplace. And often people have started businesses based on, posterity. They are maybe taking over a business or following in the footsteps of a parent, something like that. And other people start businesses founded on an idea that solves a problem that they've experienced in the market. And that's always a great place to start. But you have to ask yourself what it is about your product or service that makes it unique and makes it marketable. Why do people want to part with their hard-earned money to engage you in commerce and to trade with you, to trade their money for your product or service? And it shouldn't be a Me Too product. It shouldn't be something or a Me Too service that is, a dime a dozen, that it's all over the place, that anywhere a person goes, they can find a competitor of yours. If you're starting a business, maybe you're already in a business like that, and we can talk a little bit about how to innovate in order to create a bit of a competitive moat for yourself and escape the fate of people who have so much competition. But if you're just getting started in business, then you don't want to start a business that there's a ton of competition in. So the first thing is to design a plan with your business, or sorry, your product or service in mind, and describe that. So, when you're writing this, you're not just expected to, sketch out a perfect business plan that is really coherent and describes everything. Just start outlining things, start jotting down all your ideas and everything, and then we'll organize it a little bit later. You can have some kind of an outline, and as I said, we'll get into what a business plan outline might look like later. But start with the product or service. Ask yourself why. Why will people agree to purchase your product or service? And there are 4 ways that businesses create value. So let's review those right now. Your product or service should be focused on always increasing each of these 4 things. So in no particular order, let's look at the 4 ways of building value. And this is what you want to describe about your product or service within your business plan. So the first one we're going to say is quality. You offer a quality product or service. Describe, why is it higher quality than the competition offers? In what ways is it higher quality? Is it the way it's been engineered? Is it the way it's been manufactured? Is it the quality of the ingredients? What is it? And in terms of service, the same thing applies. What makes your service higher quality than the competition offers? So the number 1 thing is quality. Number 2 is pricing. Is your price higher, lower, competitively priced? Is it the same as the competition? You have to describe where your pricing will be. And that's part of the business plan. You can spend a lot of time on determining price. Right now, we're just looking at the 4 ways to build value, but you might spend a whole bunch of time looking at each of these things individually in an independent section within the business plan. Okay, so we have quality, we have price. The next one is your customer experience. Anytime you can improve your customer experience, you've increased value of your product or service. So ask yourself, what is it that your customers are going to experience? Ideally, what do they experience? In what ways have they experienced something in the past that you want to overcome and you want to innovate, you want to improve upon? And then the last one is convenience. A lot of people ask me, well, Michael, isn't convenience and customer experience the same thing? They're not the same thing, of course. They do overlap. So if you have a very convenient product or service, that may contribute to the customer experience being favorable, but you can all identify with a time that you went way out of your way and it was decidedly inconvenient so that you could experience something that was delightful and that had a customer experience beyond what else you might have been able to experience closer to home. So the one that pops to mind right now is Disney World. Disney World is not convenient for me. I don't live close to Disney World, and yet I've been to Disney World a number of times, and it's because they market an incredible customer experience. So you see the difference between convenience and customer experience. Conversely, you might think of something where there is a product or service that you can engage in, it's very high quality or whatever, but it's across town, or the parking is not going to be convenient or whatever. So you just went to a different location. It could be a convenience store, a local vendor, or a restaurant that's very close to you. And maybe the quality, maybe the pricing, whatever part of the value might not be the same, but you're doing it out of convenience. So you can differentiate between customer experience and convenience, of course. So those are the 4. Once again, quality, pricing, customer experience, and convenience. So look at those things and ask yourself and describe on your document, on your business plan, in what ways you are going to continually improve those things to add more and more value, and where do you stand now? Now, I'm not just talking to people who are starting businesses as of today. Many of you are watching this video already have a business in place, and maybe you lack a clear and concise business plan and you need to put one together right now. So start writing these things down. The other thing, speaking of competition, that's something that should be described in your business plan. And you have to define what the business competition is going to be in your market. And that's another thing you have to describe within your business plan is what is your market geographically? Is it something that you're going to be offering your services, product and services globally or locally, and what that is? And once you've made that definition, then you have to decide, well, what is the competition? Don't fool yourself into believing that you're so unique that there's no competition. I had a discussion with a young entrepreneur a few months ago, and she invested the better part of $1 million into a new business. And I had described, once she described the business that she was getting into, I related it to an old friend of mine who had a business that in my mind sounded similar. And I said, oh, I guess he's actually a competitor of yours. And her response was, I don't have any competition. I'm the only one who does what we do. And she described the uniqueness of her service that she was offering. And I thought it was a little naive because, or at least it was a little restrictive in terms of the definition of competition. You may have a product or service that is very unique, and that there isn't somebody who's doing it exactly like you. You need to have that you have to have that to be in business, but that doesn't mean there's no competition. For example, if you're in the transportation business, well, what do I mean by that? What is the transportation business? You could say, well, a subway. The airline business is transportation business. Automotive is transportation. These electric scooters, the ride hailing, and all these types of things are competitors of one another in the transportation business. So take a look at it. So if you're in the entertainment business and you're thinking that it's very unique, your product, what you have to offer is a very unique concept, that's great, but you're still competing with the other ways that people currently get their entertainment. How will you draw that market? How will you win market share away from competing industry players? So it doesn't matter what industry you are in, there is competition, and you have to look at it broad and then get more and more specific in terms of describing your competition. This is important. You need to know who out there is competing for those dollars that you're seeking to earn. The next thing you want to look at is, what is your target market? We talked about geographically what your market may look like, but also what about demographically? Or is there a particular age of a customer that's ideal for you? Is there a particular situation, like are you doing business to business products and services, or are you looking to sell directly to the end consumer, retail customer? And is it male or female? Is there a particular interest, that maybe your product appeals to people who are health conscious, or who are specifically into jogging and running? Whatever it is, you need to look and define what is your target market and try to be as specific as possible. It's a mistake that business owners make, trying to be as broad as possible, trying to appeal to everyone. That is a mistake. Maybe that's what you're going to jot down today. Think about it. If you're trying to appeal to everyone, you're going to end up appealing to no one. You're going to have way too much competition. Instead, you need to create and carve out a niche. You need to have a target market that you cater to in a way that others do not. That's a really important thing. And we've talked about in previous videos, working on your strengths. So ask yourself, in terms of your resources, in terms of your particular talents, what are your strengths? What naturally will you be inclined to add to your product or service because it's what you do? Add that, define that, put those things down, okay? So much of the business plan is going to be unique to your individual circumstance. Of course, if you have a brick and mortar store, you're going to have to consider location. And depending on your product or service, you have to define your unique selling proposition, as we've described a moment ago. The logistics of running your business are really important. And your marketing strategy. You need to spend a lot of time on your marketing strategy. So let's look at those for just a moment here. So first of all, the logistics of running your business. How will you acquire inventory that you're going to sell? Is this a physical product that you're selling? Is this something you're manufacturing, and who are you selling it to? Or is this something that you're purchasing somewhere from another stakeholder within the supply chain, and you are then reselling? Maybe you're refining the product in some way. Maybe you are a broker of some kind. You have to define how that works, and you really need to spend some time on this. Diagram it. You should have a workflow process diagram that describes, and anyone could follow along and understand. And even though you're doing this for you, by having somebody else take a look at it, if it doesn't make sense to them, if they read through it and if they look at your workflow process diagram and it doesn't make sense, then there's probably some holes that you need to fill in and give consideration to. When it comes to selling the product, what is your sales journey? What is the sales path? And what does the sales funnel look like? So we've talked about that again in another video, and how that sales process can differ from a person who is doing something in terms of e-commerce online or more virtual sales process versus somebody brick and mortar, face-to-face, more traditional sales. You have to define your sales process. And all of these things relate to the human resources aspect of your business plan. How will you acquire talent? What sort of talent are you going to look for? What are your strengths? What are you missing in terms of weaknesses in your business that you need to acquire as part of the talent that you're looking for on your team and in your recruitment? So all of those things, the logistics, the process, spell out everything of how things work, how it gets from point A to Z in terms of the beginning of where the product or the service first comes from you all the way until it ends up in the customer's hands and beyond sometimes as well. What sort of community impact is this likely to happen or have? You have to consider what things will happen after the customer has it. A very simple example is your product something that you sell once and it lasts forever and the person's never going to need to buy another one? You'll always need to be conquesting new customers. Conversely, if you have a product that is consumable and a person uses it up within a month, then you can focus your strategy on retaining customers more and getting reorders again and again. So look at those kind of things and consider, I mentioned about the community impact. Do you have environmental issues that you need to consider? What about laws and regulations? What things you might have this brilliant idea and you didn't realize that there's some government authority intervention that prohibits you from doing part of your plan or all of your plan. You need to research these kinds of things as well. With respect to your marketing strategy, are you planning to use traditional advertising? Are you more likely to engage in digital marketing? Digital marketing is winning the game right now in terms of marketing. Are you going to do content marketing and rely heavily on people getting value from your content and converting them to have greater and greater interest in the products and services that you sell? Or are you going to do digital advertising where you actually pay Google or Bing or Facebook, LinkedIn to try to get some leads for you, and how will you convert those leads? You got to give strict consideration to all of this stuff. Do you have the expertise to be able to do this on your own? If not, how will you make sure that you aren't left behind with your competitors? What will your website look like? What are the functionality of your website? How will you track your customers? How will you make sure that you're following privacy laws? So you can see there's a lot to consider. And as you start to outline things and put things down, and you will get a much better idea for the challenges you have and where your knowledge gaps are, where you may need to consult with somebody to assist you, and where you may need to recruit and acquire talent for your team to fill in where you're missing. And a huge one has to do with your capital requirements. How much money does it cost to invest in the business? Are you buying a franchise that costs $1 million? Or are you buying existing business? Are you starting one from scratch? What equipment will you need to buy? All of these kinds of things, of course, have to be considered in your business plan. Now, for those who've been running their business for many years and you don't have a business plan, you may think that this is unnecessary. I still think you need to do this, because what happens, maybe you have all the equipment, you're going through the logistics, your process works, you know it like the back of your hand, but by documenting it, all of a sudden some of the things start to emerge that you have weaknesses in your business. And when we get back to that foundational principle of creating a unique selling proposition and the 4 ways of increasing value and innovating, you will start to see, the way we've always done things, we're lacking a little bit, and we're leaving ourselves susceptible to the competition to eat our lunch, to start to infringe on our market share. So getting back to capital for a moment, you need to do some calculations, put some spreadsheets together and do some projections and estimate how much money you'll need to have. And do you have sufficient money to last during times of low sales or catastrophe, global pandemics, and this kind of thing? So that's a good segue. We could go on for hours just on the business plan, but I'm going to go on to reason number 2 that businesses fail, and that is poor management. So once we've put together and documented a clear and concise business plan, that is going to serve as our guide, as our strategy, as our management manual. Okay, so this is the document that's going to provide you with guidance on your step-by-step, your day-to-day, year in and year out processes. And management is all about execution of those strategies. Remember, management is about your organization, allocation, and distribution of your resources from moment to moment, from day to day, as demands require. So, and I mean that sometimes it happens from moment to moment. It may be that your attention is needed in one area very frequently, and then a particular crisis occurs and you're the only one who can sort that out. And so all of a sudden you have to direct resources to another part of your business immediately to deal with that. And then when that happens, of course, you can create plans and strategies for the future that maybe your business plan lacked, that help you figure out how to deal with that in the future, so that you're not running shorthanded over on another part of your business. So the management aspect, let's say that again, it's about the organization, allocation, and distribution of your resources from moment to moment and day to day as your business needs require. And that is within your plan. You're planning, you're projecting, you are somewhat guessing, making educated guesses as to where you will need those resources, and you're organizing them and you're allocating and you're distributing them. That may mean schedules and remuneration pay plans, all these types of things. That's how you start to organize this stuff. But you recognize that anything can happen in business, and all of a sudden a new competitor opens up, or there's a new law that affects things, or somebody quits. There's all sorts of challenges that occur in business, and the management is the part of the business that can roll with the punches, that can reallocate those and reorganize, redistribute those resources to make sure that the business takes advantage of its opportunities and doesn't get caught off guard and lose market share and lose customers, lose value, make a poor customer experience, those kinds of things. So far, number 1 reason for businesses going out of business is lack of a clear and concise business plan. Number 2 is poor management. And number 3 is insufficient capital. So we talked about that at the end of the discussion when we were talking about business plan, is capital. You need to spend some time and figure out how much money do you need. Many businesses have insufficient capital to see them through a very stormy time, such as global pandemic, and governments try to intervene, it doesn't work, and all of a sudden businesses are failing left, right, and center. And there's all talk about, well, it's nobody's fault because there's, it's not about fault. I don't want to get into what's going on right now in 2020. I'm trying to focus on things that will be meaningful and can be applicable regardless of what the business environment is. But right now is really challenging, and it's an obvious example that capital is a major reason that businesses can fail. If you aren't making sufficient sales and revenue in order to generate free cash flow in order to keep your business running, do you have reserves? What can you do in terms of lines of credit? What ways will you be able to stay afloat? And sometimes it's just about staying afloat beyond what the competition, but you want to be careful. You have to manage your risk. You have to make decisions as part of your business plan when it comes to the capital. Where is it coming from? How much do I have? How long can I realistically operate on this? And don't project it for ideal times, of course. Don't even project strictly for the average time. You need to try to create contingency plans for worst case scenarios so that your business can survive when those things come up. So those are the three main reasons that businesses fail. Your challenge today is to start to wrap your head around that, especially those who are in business for a long time and maybe one of these three challenges has reared its ugly head in the past. And as you're listening, you kind of think, yeah, that may be a challenge for me. Maybe I do need to spend some time on a business plan. Maybe I'm lacking a plan for certain parts of my business and I should spend some time on that. And if you don't know where to find the time, we've got videos to give you some advice on that as well. Wrap your head around this. What is your capital strategy? Have you encountered a big challenge where you found yourself short on cash and you weren't sure you were going to make it? I mean, you need a good plan around that. And what about your management skills? Do you lack some management skills? It's okay to be the owner of a business and lack management skills. It really is okay, as long as part of your plan is how you mitigate those lack of management skills that you personally lack by adding people to the team or relying on others, maybe organizations like ours that can assist you with those things. So that's where we're going to leave it for today. Is I want you to wrap your head around some of this stuff, and then later we'll come back and we'll create individual videos where we do a deeper dive and explore each of those three things a little bit better. Between now and then, though, hopefully you've taken a note, something that you can implement today. Make a commitment. Do something today. Don't sort of just listen and think, yeah, I know I should maybe take a look at our capital strategy. Maybe I should be looking closer at how we manage the business. Maybe I should be looking better at our business plan, but I just don't have the time or whatever, or the procrastination. I'm not sure what the reason is. Don't move away from that. There are reasons that these are the three main things that cause businesses to fail. Ask yourself, am I impervious to those reasons? And the answer is no. So thanks for joining me today. Please leave a comment. I realized this was a huge topic. As I started talking about it, I thought, wow, there's so much to cover here that we're going to need to expand upon this in other videos. Leave some comments. Ask me what you'd like me to dig into a little bit deeper. As always, I want you to debate me if you think that I'm saying something that's incorrect. We learn from one another. Thanks for joining me. Perpetually refined.